So the Vesterian economy over time has gone through some drastic changes, and I am here to document the whole economy up until now. I would like to say I'll only be making these types of videos now, so if you appreciate this type of content on Vesteria, please give me some feedback in the comments and expect new videos every few months. Anyways, without further ado, let's start at the beginning. So, where it all began, spiders were the highest level mob at level 15, and grinding them was the only way to earn money. Most players at the time worked for ancient scrolls, which were sold for 50 silver at a merchant, and was a lot of silver at the time, and would have taken a couple of hours to reach that milestone. If you had around 100 silver, you would be considered a wealthy Vesterian in this time frame, which is around November 2018. I think it's also worth mentioning that trading wasn't a feature at this time, so the only way you could earn money was by guessing it yourself. On the 8th of November was the first documented gold coin. I'm not sure what player achieved this milestone, but at the time it was a huge feat. A little later on, a few valuable items started popping up. The web staff, the spider dagger, and the royal fang. I'm not entirely sure how players got this, as it was pre-Spider Queen time. But I would assume Bereza, the creator of the game, did a drop party, which is where a mob is spawned by Bereza and it can drop items, basically. These items were valued extremely high, as they were by far and away the highest level items in a game, and players theorized that normal spiders dropped them, but there was no evidence backing this. Around February 2019 was the time when rubies and also trading was added into the game. A specific drop from the rubies, the ruby eye, would sell for 500 copper, and its drop rate was around 10% at the time, so an hour of grinding this could earn you a decent 50 silver. The Spider Queen was also added, which meant that drops like the Spider Dagger, Web Staff, Royal Fang, Spider Leg Bow, Arched Armor, and Cursed Attack Scrolls were now accessible items. They were still super hard to obtain, as the Spider Queen spawned every 12 hours, so they were rare items and expensive to the current economy. Cursed Scrolls and the Spider Leg Bows would sell for upwards of 700 silver, while the rest of the items would sell for around 100 silver. Around this time, 1G was still very wealthy, and if you had multiple gold, you were considered a super wealthy player. Very few players had more than 2 gold at once in this time frame. I should also mention that when the Sewers update was released in early 2019, the Cursed Defense Scroll was added via the Beggar. It would cost around 70 silver to get it from him, but not many people resold it, as you could only get 1 per slot. People reselling their scrolls would get paid a lot of money, around 1.5 gold. At this time, there was also no such thing as trade tax, as it was implemented later on. Next up was the Coliseum. Now, a well-known player back in Alpha called Void Bunny had a ridiculously overpowered Spider Leg Bow, which was gold tier at the time. With Cursed Scrolls being expensive and rare, there were next to none red tier items in the game, let alone a gold tier item. And with bows being auto aimed at the time, using it in the Coliseum was an absolute gem. It was extremely hard to get marks from the Colo. The highest level armor in the game at this time was in the Coliseum, at level 27, so a lot of players wanted to obtain these items, but with having to get 99 plus kills in there, it was a mission that would take days if you don't have the right equipment. Lots of players sold their marks of valor for high prices, making the Coliseum a farming place. The armor itself would also sell for a lot, but it wouldn't generate new money into the game, so there was no inflation. If anything, there was a deflation, as a 30% trade tax was added at this time for gold. The Yeti boss was added in May 2019, which had new opportunities to upgrade players' weapons, with an icicle getting added along with the Yeti boots and great scrolls for headgear. At the time, the great headgear scroll was the only one of its kind, so players were willing to pay up to 1.5 gold to get it, and the icicle was a hunter's weapon, and there were no new weapons for mages or warriors in this update, so only around a third of Vesterians were interested in buying this, but it still sold for 500 silver. Yeti boots also sold for 500 silver, as it was an adventurous item, meaning any class can wear it. At this time, still having 1 gold was the normal, as there was no items that would influence the economy badly. Around this point is where the big inflation of the Vesteria economy happened. In November 2019, the Forsaken Isle update was added. Along with it added 2 new mobs and a new boss. The new boss, Mokotoa, had a lot of new high level loot, but here's the problem, it spawned quite frequently, and you were almost guaranteed a drop from it. This ended up inflating the economy slightly, with 2 to 3 gold being the normal, and having around 5 gold meant that you were a wealthy player. The Moglo and the Mogloko mask were also added as drops from the Moglo and the Mogloko. The Mogloko mask was pretty useless at the time, but the Moglo mask for hunters was a very useful item and almost every hunter needed it. It would come at a cost though. At around 5G upwards you could buy it for. This was quite expensive at the time, and the drop rate of it was super rare, so getting it was a mission. Fast forward to Christmas Day 2019, and variants were added to the game. This just increased the cost of items, as you could now get better drops, but of the same weapons still. The next big update, and possibly the main killer of the Vesterian economy, the Whispering Dunes update just blew the economy out of control. With many new bosses being added and lots of new drops getting added, the economy just went crazy. A lot of these drops weren't overly hard to obtain, and because of the item's high demand and high level, the economy just went up. 2 months ago, having around 2 gold was impressive, but now 10 gold was pretty easily obtainable, and players started getting richer and richer. It wasn't hard to find a player with 100 plus gold in their bank. The economy at this point was past fixable, and players just had to adapt to the new circumstances. With one of the new mini-bosses, Orchifidi, getting added, this mini-boss would spawn very frequently and drop a good bow that would sell for 500 silver or more depending on the variant. This boss also dropped cursed attacks, so it was a popular farming place, so the economy inflated from there. There was a big period from around March to August where the game was shut down and no one could play it. But when it was reopened again, the economy was still inflated. An event that happened in September added an expensive item into the game that was never going to be a good idea for the economy. At first, an old dev by the name of Imagination Burst was planning to give away a new item called Drip. His plans were to only give one away, but then somehow gave 50 or more of them away in the end. The item quickly became the most wanted item in the game, and players were willing to pay a lot for it. In the same week that it came out, people were selling their drips for 100 gold, and in the next few months, it'd almost be impossible to get one of your hands on these, as players would only be willing to sell them for 1 platinum, which is 1000 gold. Somehow, the next major Vesteria update made gold useless. With the death penalty taking away a percent of your gold, the next update was the pit update, and while it was very easy to die down there. At the time, this update possibly broke trading as gold became useless and every player wanted to trade with weapons, as there was no way you could lose them from dying, whereas if you died down in the pit you would lose gold. There were new drops down there that were high level drops, and would sell for a lot, but people only wanted to trade for them using items. A few months later though, gold would be restored back to how it should be, as the death penalty was taken out of the game, therefore you couldn't lose your gold. Next, a huge milestone was reached. A Vesterian player by the name of Revan Rain managed to obtain 1000 gold, which is the equivalent to 1 platinum in Vesterian terms. This was quite monumental, as if I'm right, he only got this by trading, and even with the 30% trade tax, he still managed to get 1 platinum. A new NPC would be added into the game in May 2021 called the Stranger, and it would sell a couple of interesting items. It would sell curse scrolls, but they were listed for more than you could buy them from a player, so it wasn't too much of an issue. Another item that was sold was the ranging gear. Now this item was sold in Port Fidelio in late 2018 and early 2019 and was suddenly taken off sale. They are extremely good for rangers, but not many copies of them were available, so they were expensive and rare. When the Stranger was added, it would now sell for 130 silver, which is incredibly cheap, and now they were easily obtainable, making ranging gear worth nothing for trading. In the month of June 2021, Brizza, the owner of Vesteria, did something called World Events, where basically you were taken to a place and pretty much given free loot. The thing with this though is that the drip item was a drop, and it was pretty easily obtainable, making drip not so rare anymore. I'd estimate that during these drop parties, over 1000 new drips were added into circulation. I'd say it helped the economy balance out a bit, but I'm sure previous drip owners before the drop party would think that my opinion is completely wrong. There are still some super rare items in the game like the candle chicken pet and pink dye, but over the last 6 months the economy has started to balance out with a lot of new players playing the game as it was released for free. Now, if I missed out any key information on the evolution of the Vesterian economy, feel free to drop a comment below, as a lot of the information is from my experiences with the game, and the forums is no longer around, making it super hard to find old data. If you like this documentary, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time.